Hey guys, Darren Kelly, Coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another episode of the 2026 AFL Fantasy Preseason. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing another team reveal. I think it's a pretty good time to do my second team reveal, really update you guys on how my team is looking. I've just finished, well, mostly just finished my player position series, going through all the player positions and talking about the value guys, the premium guys, and who I'm really bullish on. I've just got the rookies left to do, but I think we can pretty much lock away a fair few of those in today's episode as well. And we're also about a month away from the official start of the season, so I think it's a really good time to do it. So let's get into it. So let's get straight into my team now. I don't want this video to be too long, but I just think there's a ridiculous amount of value in the defensive line this year that, for me, I can't see myself starting the top liners like a Nasiah Wanganimulera. I already said Rosie, and even a Zorko, even a Whitfield. So I am just going full value in the defensive line. And the first one I'm going to be picking is a bit not super highly owned, but highly owned enough that most people are already aware of him, is Tom McCarthy. I don't think I need to go too deep into what he's doing, but he's apparently moving into a midfield role at West Coast, and he's absolutely dominating through there. So I'm really bullish on what he could definitely do and improve on his 84 average there. So, yeah, a lot of value there. I think he can push 95, even push 100 if he gets everything going his way. Obviously, West Coast are crying out for some midfielder just to rack up in there and really drive them forward and try and get them to improve this year. So, I think I really like him in there. Also, the fact that Harley Reid will get a lot of the attention, if anything, so there should be no extra attention coming to McCarthy. Obviously, I'm not expecting any attention to come at all, but if the West Coast were to improve for one reason or another, I don't think McCarthy will have any dramas there. So I'm picking him at my D1 at this stage. The next one is one of the easiest players we just locked in all season. Is been Kobe McKercher. We know how good he's going to be as long as he is fit and firing. There was some news that came out today that he will be requiring some surgery on his hand due to breaking his hand in practice, I believe. So he will miss the practice games and the preseason games, but North are still fairly confident that he will be available for round one. So for me, I don't think it's going to be too much of a concern. Yes, it's something that we got to consider, but I don't think it's something that I'm willing to just go, nah, he's out of my side come round one. As long as he's fit and he's playing in the role that we expect him to do, which will be a halfback, pretty much guaranteed, he will improve his average from this 78 to about 90, if not 95 in that region. So he is just a absolute menace. He's going to really benefit from the new rules with a lot more handball receives. He led the league in handball receives by a country mile, so he will only bump up even further. So I'm really liking him there at F2. The next one is my boy Miles Bergman. I know a lot of people have jumped off of him in recent times, but I'm still backing him in that he will still be in that midfield mix at Port come start of the season, and we know how good he can be if he's playing in that role. He averaged 102 in that role throughout last season for a good patch of time, so I'm still backing him in there. And obviously the early fixture is a huge factor as well. He will get his price rising really quickly if in the right role. So keep an eye on him in the practice matches. But for all purpose sakes, I'm still really hot on him. The next one I have gone a little bit colder on just due to the fact that he hasn't played in the first Pracky match against Brisbane Lions. I just finished watching that today. Obviously, that's still a huge concern that he isn't ready to play AFL games yet. He's still in training and doing drills and whatnot. But theoretically, as long as he plays opening round and puts up a decent score, doesn't need to be anything massive, I think he's still someone that I will lock away come round one because he is still so cheaply priced at 72, and we know how good he can be in the past, where he can break that 100 100 average. So he could be one that I'm still fairly confident that I'm just going to lock in my side for now. Obviously, that can definitely change if he were not to get up for the early rounds. And if he does miss opening round, then that would obviously be a huge dampener. I don't know if I'd pick him at that point to start him on my side. But the next one I had on here it's a toss-up between a lot of players. Obviously, it has been Kitty Coleman for a long time, pretty much since the start of the preseason. But after watching the practice match game against Carlton today, he's playing half forward, which I just don't feel is going to be that fantasy relevant for us, even though he was quite impactful in that. It seems like he seems to be the one that is going to move more forward. So for those sort of reasons, I have removed him from my side at the moment. Not trying to be too reactionary, but just based off that, I have removed him there. The one that has slotted in there for me was Windsor. Caleb Windsor. Oops, what's happened there? Whoops. Caleb Windsor from the Melbourne Giants. He is training in the midfield and absolutely dominating in there at the moment. So I'm really bullish on what he can do this year. Obviously, I've spoken a lot in this preseason about Melbourne being a fantasy goldmine. I've spoken on a host of their players so far, and it looks like Windsor is leading the way in terms of someone that is ready to break out in the defensive line, going into a midfield role, and just being super damaging through there with his hard running. He will also get a lot of stuff off half back, as that's where he has played in the past. So I'm really bullish on what he can do, and I can definitely see him bumping up his average from 54 to the 80s at least, and I could even see closer to 90 in a very nice role. So 6.1% owned is a little bit lowly owned, but I think that will jump up as we get closer to the season start, as we see more and more of him in the midfield. And to round out the midfield, I have just gone with the rookies. Obviously, Yuland will be the one on field. Grill is in the defensive line on the bench. Lindsay's also there. I don't know if he'll fully play, but he just looks really classy at the moment, and I feel like he's pushing for a round one selection. So that does round out my defensive line at this stage. Now, moving into the midfield line, I still do have the likes of Caldwell in my M1. I think, yeah, he's really looking like he's going to have a massive year. Yes, he had a bit of a knee jerk a couple weeks back, but he seems like he's got all over that, and he was dominating in match sims again. So no concern there for me. I think he's going to be a huge captain option, and we know how good he can be with everything going on. So I'm still really confident with that. This obviously could be the likes of Errol Goulden, even a Dawson I would be happy to pay up for. So this position can chop and change with only a couple 100k there. So there's no absolute lock-in at this stage. The next one has been Zach Butters. He's just been given an absolute free ride this entire preseason, and I don't see that changing for all the right factors that he's priced at a very nice 100 break even. He's got a really nice fixture to really get his average moving in the right direction to start the season, and can get you off to a really hot start with captaincies and whatnot. Don't see him taking any attention in the early stages as well, so that's also a really nice factor. And yeah, it would just get us off to a hot start. So I don't see that changing at any stage. Contract year, as we've all mentioned. So I think he will have an absolute blinder this year and really boost his average up to something that we haven't seen before. Then it starts to get a bit weaker in my midfield. I have gone for a bit of a cheaper midfield this year, just with a lot of value in the midfield with a lot of rookies this year in the midfield. So the next one I had was Sam Walsh. Now, I am slightly getting a bit colder on this pick after watching the practice match. He did lead the CBAs for Carlton, but obviously Cripper was out, and he just didn't rack up the way I sort of expected him to. From all reports, he's been dominating match sims, but he just didn't really didn't give me the pass the eye test for me in the the Pracky match. So I'm still on him. Don't get me wrong. I'm still hoping he can be the one that I select going to round 1, but I am slightly going cold on that, but I'm still struggling what other picks I could go. This could be upgraded to the likes of a Jack Steele instead. I have removed Jack Steele from my side. That's one of the differences from early in the preseason. I just don't know if I see much improvement from a Jack Steele with Melbourne going backwards. He's obviously come over from one of the best fantasy sides to someone that to a side that isn't going to be as good. So I just don't know if I see as much upside as I once thought. Even with the likes of a Viney out with a Achilles injury or whatever it is. So yeah, there's that. Next one is just an absolute lock in the midfield is Darcy Parish. As long as he is fit and firing and does play round 1, I'd highly expect most people would pick him unless you're really backing him to not play the role that we expect and to get potentially injured early on. So don't need to explain that one too much. Then it just goes really cheap. Will Brodie is the next one. I think I've spoken enough about him. I'm still really bullish that he will be there round 1. And with the early fixture that Port have, he will be able to put up some pretty decent figures and really get his price moving in the right direction for a short period of time. Wines is out for 2 weeks, so he should be cemented in that team for the first 2 weeks. And we even seen in the trial games for Port Adelaide that Wines was playing as a half forward more than a midfielder. He kicked 3 goals on that, so that's something that they're definitely trialing to move him out of that midfield and free up another spot for potentially Will Brodie. That could also be Bergman. You got to think Butters is in there, Drew's in there, Bergman, Rosie, Horne-Francis. There's a lot of names running through there, so moving Wines out of there just makes a little bit of sense to me. So I think Brodie can slot in there for a couple of weeks guaranteed. But then we're just going to lock in all the rookies. Jagger Smith is the biggest lock of the preseason so far. He was phenomenal in the Pracky match today and didn't rack up, but still had 15 disposals, kicked a nice goal, and when he was through the midfield, he did really nice things. Obviously, going to play a bit more half forward than what we probably would like him to do, but that's just what we come to expect. He can still rack up. His junior numbers are elite. Then I got Willem Dersma there, who will more than likely play out on the wing, but I'm still more than confident that given that he will get a lot of game time and have a decent role, wing isn't too bad. I still could see him pushing 50s or 60s from that 33 price tag, so that's enough for me. Then I've thrown Farrell in the midfielder line. That just shows you that there's so much defensive rookies at the moment that I'm having to push them into my forward line at this stage. So I've got him there from Essendon. And then I've gone with the likes of Annabelle still in there. I'm going a bit cold on this one as well, just due to the fact that Brisbane are just absolutely stacked. You just look at their list. And from what he did in this practice match, it didn't give me a huge amount of confidence that he will. He's not an absolute lock in their side. He's also playing just a half forward role, so it's not going to be super fantasy friendly and hasn't shown a huge capacity just to rack up whenever he would like. So he could definitely be switched out pretty easily. But the final one I had in here, who's I can't seem to find, is Sam Cumming from Richmond. It sounds like he's pretty much a lock in the Richmond side at this stage to play a role there, whether that's off halfback or wing or half forward. He will be in their round 1 team at this stage. I don't have Darcy Sharp, or what is his name? What is his name? Was it Sharp? Yeah, Sharp. Dyson Sharp from Essendon. From all reports, it sounds like he's not going to be in the round 1 side. We will see him at some stage, but for now, I think he will not make the round 1 selection. Again, I always said that for him, it's going to be more of a waiting game because their midfield is quite stacked, whereas the other two Essendon boys can go into different roles. So they can play off more halfback. So I don't think Sharp will see Sharp early stages. So that is my midfield. The only real difference here was again moving the likes of Steele out of the M3 spot, and that sort of shuffled everyone up a little bit. And besides that, nothing else has changed besides a few rookies here and there. Now, the ruck spot is where I've had a lot of changes, and again, it's still not absolutely locked away because there's still so much water to go under the bridge. But at my my R1 spot, I do have the likes of Darcy Cameron. I was super impressed with how he went about the Origin game. He looked like he had really done his homework with how to attack this new ruck rules. So he was getting a lot of hitouts. He was working around the ground quite well. He was spreading for marks a lot more. And he just really looked like he was composed and still confident in the way that he could go about his scoring. I think he scored a 79 and about 65% of time on ground in that game. And obviously, what was a free-flowing game. So I could definitely see him improving, or at least having minimal downside on his 102 price tag. Yes, I still expect there to be some downside, but I still think he could be one that surprises most to hold his price rather than paying up for these absolute top guys. But then I have gone with the likes of Vizentini alongside him from Port Adelaide. I'm still pretty like this one. I hope it comes off, but there's no guarantee, obviously. But he is pushing Jordan Sweet as the number one ruck at Port Adelaide. So I could definitely see him getting that main role early on. And this is sort of the structure I want to lock myself into. I want to be able to have a one primo guy, one value guy, and hopefully leave myself a little bit of coin at the end of the day to be able to make shifts as I see fit. You know, I could easily jump up from Vizentini to Luke Jackson, who I'm still pretty bullish on, to have that same sort of minimal downside at this stage, who is at 31%. But just keeping in mind, I still want to be a bit more unique on this side of things. So that is those two. And on the bench, I still had the likes of Barnett. I'm again still locking myself into the red dot R3 position. I don't see myself coming out of that just because, again, BCs and Cs are still very important going into the year. And I just think with the new 50% time on ground rule, it will be nice to be able to just lock away in the ruck position and not have to worry about people potentially not making enough time on ground or needing to have cover elsewhere on the field to cover those sort of things. So I'm locking in him there. And then I am throwing Duff Tytler on my utility at this stage. Again, I'm still fairly confident that he will get a gig early on in the season and could potentially put up a fair few points for us, whether that's a full forward role or a ruck rover chopping in there. So, locking him there at utility. But now we'll move into the forward line, and this is where it gets a bit... I guess it's predictable at this end of the day. Harry Shees was just number one. That's never going to change. Petrarca now slots in at number two after the Adam Treloar went down with a second calf injury at the moment. So Petrarca just slots in there nice and easy with a very similar price tag. Plus the likes of Rao is out for a couple weeks to start the season, so that's only going to improve Petrarca's output to start the season. So he will be a nice one to feature, especially in the first two rounds against West Coast and Richmond. I think he can put up some really nice figures there. Flanders just an absolute lock at F3. I think that's a pretty common structure, as I've mentioned before. Then I'm still super confident on Connor McDonald. I don't think anything that we saw from the practice game with Hawthorn that we went away from him anymore. I think he's really going to benefit from being around the ball a lot more often because he's just a bit of a workhorse in there. He's going to spread for marks. He's going to do a bit of that tackle pressure. And he can push forward and still be quite dangerous around the scoreboard. So what we saw from him scoring 110 fantasy points only reinforced that I think he's going to benefit even if he doesn't get a 60 or 80% CBAs. 40% is more than all I need from him. So I'm locking him in at F6. Then this F5 spot is where I'm sort of toying up with who I go with. You know, there's like the Philippou, Lawler, Rochelle, but I think I've fallen on Rochelle at this stage just with the the news that obviously Rankin's going to miss round 1 and he has now picked up a hamstring injury that could see him miss round 2. I would have a bit more confidence if he were to miss round 2 to pick Rochelle. But from what I've seen so far, he's doing quite well at a very decent price point that I could see him going up to a nice point. And I think when I looked back, he was able to average 90. So I think that upside is a lot higher than the likes of a Philippou or a Layla or Lola, however you want to say it. I always get it wrong. Um, Whereas I see a Lawler's going to probably be like a 75 sort of average. I'm not seeing massive upside for him. And Philippou is no guarantee that he's going to get a midfield role at the likes of St Kilda, just with a lot of those guys in. So again, I still need to see a lot on for him to come into my side, but it really is a toss up between those three guys. But I've gone with the likes of Rochelle at this stage. And then locking in Robertson as that on-field guy. Then I've gone with... No, sorry. I've completely forgot someone. At my F6, I have gone a bit deeper with this line just because I'm not super confident with the rookies that we have in this line. So Jamarra Ugle-Hagan falls in at my F6. And if you watch my forward episode, my value forward options, I will dive a little bit deeper into what I expect from him. I think he's going to absolutely nail it in the first couple of weeks against West Coast and Richmond. He's going to put up a lot of decent scores and he's going to get his price moving in the right direction really, really quickly. And I will have a plan of attack to move him off in round 3. But if that doesn't pay off, then he does go up against Melbourne, so I could hold him through to that as well. So definitely having backup plans with this one. But I've moved off Todd Marshall in this line to go up to Jamarra Ugle-Hagan because I feel like he could really get his price moving in the right direction fairly early on. Obviously, this is all if he plays. If he doesn't play, then that's obviously just a jump off and look elsewhere. There's obviously Todd Marshall I could go back to if that role sticks for him, and a couple other cheaper guys that we can look at. So there's that one. But then obviously the likes of Robertson slots in at F7, and then for my F8, still really up for debate. It could be Lombard as a small forward again. Similar thing to Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, could go quite well early days and kick a few book goals. But I've gone with Lockie Doverston. Doverston, is that how you pronounce it? Bit of a more expensive one there, but that's the team. Made this video really, really quickly, but realistically, there hasn't been too many changes. If I look at my previous side, obviously Connor Rosie is the biggest out of the defensive line. It does really scare me because I feel like Connor Rosie could definitely be massive this year, particularly with the new handball receives going to be a lot higher this year. He could definitely thrive in that space, but still not confident exactly what his role is going to be like. McKercher has slotted into my team after doing a lot more research. I just have a lot of confidence that he will average a lot more than what he's priced at after a slow start last year. Bergman, Newman obviously locks in there for a while. Coleman becomes Windsor, and the rookies have all stayed the same, so that doesn't change. Caldwell Butters are still locked in there. Jack still has dropped out, and that has caused everyone else to shuffle up. I do still have 300k in the bench, so I could, again, make a few changes, whether that is a Walsh to a Steele. I could even upgrade a rookie to a Xavier Lindsay, who I'm still pretty hot on from the likes of Melbourne. Xavier Lindsay, who I expect to take a lot of kick-ins in the new year, with obviously Salem being injured, May being out, and what's his name? Bowie being injured as well. So there's just a host of points back there. And I think he will definitely thrive back there and could push a 90 average. So he could easily slot into my side and could be a replacement for Will Brody if he doesn't get up for round 1. Rucks are obviously really up in the air at the moment. I don't think anyone has a solid answer of what exactly we're doing. But we will start to get more answers as the practice matches games happen. But yeah, I will show you what my Ruck lineup is before the start of the season. So stay tuned for that that team reveal at some stage. And then I think the forward line's pretty stock standard. I don't think there's any too many surprises there. Maybe going a bit deeper than most. I think most people are running a Robertson on field. But most people are running probably the top three. Connor McDonald's there, and probably either a Lawler or a Philippou instead of Shelley. But that is the team, guys. Tell me what you think. If I've missed anyone, please let me know. But I think I've covered off on a lot of those high popular players. Obviously, there'll be a fair few uniques that I'm still considering, but aren't confident right now to slot into my team. I will talk about them a little bit more as the preseason develops. But yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say really. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Please leave a like, subscribe, and do all those great things. Besides that, I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.